Everybody, welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. Guess who I am? I'm Dr. Pat. Hi, Benny.
Hi, Pat.
Hey, Benny. How are you, B?
Doing awesome. A great weekend is behind us, and we're now on to another wonderful week with you this week.
It's a weekend. Okay, so like you and I, like we usually do the football thing. I did not do that this weekend because I was knee deep in the middle of paperwork. Having to do with PPP and EIDL and loans and all of that. And so
Whoa, you watch your mouth. You watch your mouth. I'm just kidding.
I know, I got to watch it. But you know me, Benny, right?
Yeah.
It's like June that I start even to look at my taxes.
Sure,
and I'm
like
so far ahead of the curve, right? That I'm sitting here and Linda, triple Virgo, we're going through all the paperwork. And here's what I realized, and this is really good. I can't wait to hear what Carolyn says about this. So normally I wait, but I got a couple of other things that are just upheavaling in my life. So I decided I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna be ready for the next round. I'm gonna look at everything. I'm gonna do all the numbers.
Sure.
And so what I realize is that chaos, which we talked about on Thursday, right? Chaos is that interesting thing that I've discovered now this weekend, but I got to ask Carolyn Gross about this. I discovered this weekend, not looking at the numbers, not seeing how the percentages work for additional funding, not looking at things. It creates a silent chaos. It creates this thing inside of us when we think it's not in front of us, but it really is, but we don't pay attention to it. So that's what I want to ask you about, Benny, as we get started. Do you think that the life of Aaron Rodgers right now is in chaos?
No.
Okay, just want to know.
He's a sharp man. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He's got 2 years left in his contract. He's 37. He's at his prime. If any team wants him, they can go after and get him. I feel like he will finish out his contract in Green Bay. This isn't a sports show. That's my opinion. Although San Francisco could really use a good quarterback. Leaving it right there.
Okay. Next. Carolyn, I bet you had no idea this is the way we start our Mondays.
I mean, roll, go for it.
I bet you had no idea. Okay. Having said that, does anybody even know there's a football team called the Bills?
Buffalo.
I do now.
Yeah. Nice.
So you think about chaos in a lot of different ways, but here's why I'm bringing it up. We're going to talk about Rise Above the Chaos, how to keep positive in an unsettled world. This book should have come out a year ago, but I know the world of publishing, as my very special guest today does. And we know that things happen, when they need to happen. My very special guest, Carolyn Gross, award-winning speaker, leadership coach, health advocate, ABC, NBC, Lifetime. She's the author of several books. This one, Rise Above the Chaos, could not be in our hands any sooner. And so today, whatever team you're on, whoever you're voting for, I know my friends, they just absolutely went out of their minds about another Tom Brady Super Bowl. They're probably in a state of chaos. But what does chaos really mean? Carolyn, it's great to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Pat. Thrilled to be here. Thrilled.
You're going to get an hour of this, so I hope you're ready.
I hope so too, but I'm ready for the roller coaster, babe. Bring it.
Listen, I got to tell you. Okay. All right. So here, I read the book. So I just want to tell you that I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, why did you write the book? That's not me. But I want to ask you this question. Okay. And just so everybody's out there, what am I talking about? There we go. And don't look at my fingernails. I didn't do them this weekend. I was doing some other stuff. Here we go. All right. Rise above the chaos. I got to ask you this. No one writes a book like this. No one does. Nobody writes a book about chaos, alternative healing, unless they have gone through the pit, the fire. I got to know, what challenges, Carolyn Gross, what obstacles did you personally have to overcome to bring you right here to this very moment?
So do we do it alphabetically or, but let's name,
Alphabetically is good because I have no
Okay.
relationship to time. So if you did it
Okay.
chronologically, alphabetically is
Here
good.
we'll do it, and I'm kidding, alphabetically. I'm really not ready for that, but
You're a Sagittarius, so you told me you were Sagittarius, so I knew you were pulling my legs because ain't no way that would be alphabetical.
so adverse childhood experiences, burnout, cancer, redefining my business twice in under 22 years, spinal cord injury, and let's see, standing up to the medical world when I was diagnosed with cancer and going and, shall I say, carving out a different path. So is that good to kick the ball in the air?
That is good to kick the ball off. That is good. And I love doing this because, look, we have the best listening, viewing audience on the planet, whether you're watching us on our TV channel or you're watching us here. These people have been with us for almost 2 decades. They are the best. And what I learned in 17 years with Benny is this. You got to be relatable to people. You got to be relatable.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't kidding with you when I said I spent the weekend knee deep in numbers and papers. And at one point, I put the 2019 numbers in the 2020 spreadsheet. And my triple Virgo best friend, Linda, says, no, we're going to finish it. Let's start over. I want to ask you the words, let's start over. Let's start over. How many times have you had to tell yourself, let's start over?
Well, you know, it's the second part of my brand is rise above the chaos, redefine your life. Because I believe that these challenging, crisis, critical, unexpected surprises that come our way, and this is before a global crisis, by the way. Hello. So, by the way, the book was written and published January of 2020. So it was a book that I couldn't get into your hands last year because of a book tour being canceled, all my speaking engagements, all my public appearances, and also the media being too fresh. You know, I mean, people weren't ready. It was all numbers and all different, you know, medical communication, which was necessary.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Look,
but it is begin again.
I got to hit you up for a part of your book that I pretty much read to somebody this morning. And I needed to read it out loud.
Good.
Keys to calm. Keys to calm.
Yeah.
Now, I consider myself highly resourceful. I really do. I mean, I have a nickname. They call me Dr. Street Smart. I know how to get street smart stuff done. Do I know the keys to calm? I'm learning. I'm a work in progress. As a matter of fact, Mary Jane Mack got me one of these brain tap devices to put on. It's amazing.
Great.
But we go nowhere unless we read from your book about this. And I am so thrilled that you did not blow by this in the book. I mean, you could have put like 3 paragraphs in here about this. Tell me how significant the keys to calm are for people in the world today.
Well, self-care has never been more critical. I mean, all the focus we've had for so many years on our external image and, you know, where we're connected and with to whom, that all shifted in lockdown, didn't it?
Oh boy.
Because we could no longer communicate the same, even if we were communicating. And then there was a whole thing about how much do you share or not. And one of the things about external chaos is it brings a level of inexperience to it. because we're just not familiar. And that throws us out of our confidence level. So keys to calm, the first thing I like to say, when you can't really face the challenge at hand, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Go back in your life to a time. You made me list several. So a lot of times, I think, oh, breast cancer, what stage 3 breast cancer, what a blessing during my first nationwide book tour, 18 months on the road, 24 cities, and I get tired in Cleveland and bang, there's a lump and it's stage 3 cancer. So what happens at that moment is I've got to look back, I got to look back to other things that happen and bring up my strength and my energy. That's having some confidence is a key to calm, because confident people there's no anxiety in their demeanor. They're just sort of straight on. So self-awareness and self-care, never been more important.
Yeah. I got a bunch of things to talk to you about. There's so many things in the book. I hope I'm going to get to everything I have outlined. And by the way, I'm an underliner, so I probably just scribbled all over your book.
Great.
I'm just one of those people. Look, just when you think, ... just when you think, ... this happens. Now, why am I saying that? I want to ask you about this. It doesn't matter that this book was written in 2020. This is where we are now. This is where people are now. And I want to ask you about the part of the book that helps us understand that what's going on around us, what we call chaos, right? Mm-hmm. Like me spending an entire weekend with numbers that I dreamt about them in my sleep, and then wake up this morning with a letter from the Small Business Association or administration, SBA, about a loan that I thought they were going to forgive because I didn't read the fine print on the emergency disaster loans. And so I could take that and just have a meltdown.
Sure.
But I didn't. And I don't know why. And I turned to Linda and I said, drop in a bucket. You know what?
Good.
Don't worry. If you believe in what you're doing, some things are a drop in a bucket. But I haven't always been able to get there, Carolyn. And I want to ask you help for people today to help us get to a place where even if we can't exude confidence, we have not forgotten about how durable and resilient and how much we've already overcome.
So that's why chapter 1 of the book is Chaos, the Great Teacher. Because as I listened to your weekend with the numbers and then opening that letter today, it's interesting to me because it's like you were getting prepared. You were sharing before the show, like, I never do this in January. I'm a girl that waits a little. Maybe spring, not winter though. Winter's tough enough, I'm not going to do the numbers in winter. But here you are. You jump in, you do it, you get the letter. And so even that first example of looking back, to get your strength as you face how you're going to address this situation is a good one. But also going in, the worst thing is to awfulize, because awfulizers become victims.
Oh, man. I pray for people like that. And I mean, I do a lot of praying. And I'm not just saying your traditional praying, because I'm pretty I've been pretty much in every possible universal religion there is in my lifetime. I mean, I've stood on a corner in a white outfit with a tambourine. But the reason I say that is,
I knew I recognized you.
I'm telling you, did you give me money? Are you the one that didn't give me the money? It's funny. That's a whole different story.
That's right.
But I want to help people. I mean, we are a network that was born out of helping people. I didn't wake up one day, Carolyn, and say, oh, why don't I pay like a lot of money for airtime and then create a network? No, I dialed the wrong phone number and didn't hang up. But that's not where I am today. We are thinking about a lot of ways to help people. In your book, I was really struck by a number of different things, but I want to talk about defining moments for a moment. You
Please.
Talked about them briefly. I would love people to be able to latch on to those defining moments in the energy of honoring acknowledging and congratulating oneself. How can you help us do that? Because I know you do this for a living. I know you help a lot of people. But today in this book, To Rise Above Chaos, that's got to be a point we start.
Absolutely. And it is really one of my favorite areas to talk to people about, because we've all had unexpected life experiences. And the defining moments, the first one in my book is a story about my father's spinal cord injury. And I'm going to go, though, to that was obviously off the charts, difficult, unexpected, and what have you. But I'm going to actually go to the cancer, a defining moment, for a moment, because I think it's a little more relatable. We have a lot more people that have cancer diagnosis, friends of cancer, than spinal cord injuries. So what happened in my experience of being diagnosed with cancer in 2003 was, remember I said, if we start to awfulize, oh no, this book, it's so successful. I wrote Staying Calm in the Midst of Chaos before the events of 9/11. Oh my goodness, a self-published book. I'm all over the country. Just imagine how far my star is going to rise. You know, those are all my thoughts. And then boom, a lump in the breast, a diagnosis, stage 3. Stage 3? I pray, I meditate, I don't eat sugar, wheat, or flour.
Exactly.
I do like you. I do like Pat. I'm not quite on the street corner in white with a tambourine, but I do a lot of that kind of work. Me? And so what happened was, in a defining moment, you've got to reframe, like under the heading of Chaos, the Great Teacher, and you have to say, this is the track I'm going to take. And for me, it was, I looked at how much success I had had in the last 2 and 3 years leading up to the tumor. And I'd been president of the National Speakers Association in San Diego. I was publishing my first book and touring it. Do you understand? I mean, this was the greatest work of my life. So you know what I said? Oh, this cancer's been in my body for a while, stage 3. Oh, cancer must be very empowering for me. And that's the way, you know, using that mastery of experience kind of thing. I looked back at what I'd been doing last 3 years. It wasn't like I was in toxic relationships. It wasn't like I was screwing people to get ahead in the field or in the world, you know, or coaching clients. None of that. So cancer must be very empowering for me. So guess what? You know, we can do it with COVID. If we can do it with cancer, we can do it with COVID. And I think with you and me talking about it today, maybe there's some people that are going to turn the corner on their approach to this last 10, 11 months.
Yeah. That is my hope, desire. That is why we're expanding. We're not shrinking as a network. Our technology is finished. We're launching 10 channels this year. I cannot give up on the people. I cannot give on the people that have listened to this show. There's something about me, not quite sure what it is. People that look at my chart say, maybe a little Sagittarius, but it's probably all your Capricorn. But here's
determination.
What I want to ask. Yeah, that's right. Just like a pit bull, right? Here's what I want to ask you. You're right about that. You're right about having something like cancer that has prepared you to not just help yourself through this, but to help millions. Do you think, as you have written this book and you look to the future, and you've written many books, you've out there speaking about many things.
Not really out. Can I just correct you? We want to be actual and factual.
Yeah, metaphorically out.
Yeah,
Let's just say.
no, that's good. No,
they know
good.
where you're hiding. What is it? Wait, let me just say it to you. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
That's right, babe. You got it, Dr. Pat. Awesome.
I want to talk to you about this because part of your book, and I don't want it to go unnoticed, is there's a part of your book that says, don't rationalize. Now you're talking about a number of different things in this part of the book, but I love that phrase. don't rationalize. And I thought about this for a minute. And I read what you're writing about. And I know you're talking about exercise and you're talking about health, but those two words just stuck with me. Why do you think they're sticking to me right now, Carolyn? And do they have more meaning than specifically the way that they're mentioned in the book? Don't rationalize. Tell us about that.
Well, don't rationalize is get out of your thinking and over analytical brain and just get into action. You know, one of my privileges at the beginning of COVID, when my book tour for 2020 was postponed and, you know, canceled, a lot of it was canceled because I do in-person book signings. I've always worked in person. So why wouldn't I in 2020? And, you know, obviously we know why now. But here's the thing. I got together with a group of like 40 of the greatest minds in the country, and we all mastermind network. We were paying an advisor, and instead of crying and awfulizing and complaining every time a conference got canceled and every time somebody wanted money back for a speaking fee, we all collaborated. So we weren't rationalizing, we were activating. We were creating. It's like, here's a crisis, I've got to respond. And there's people and personalities, and obviously, Dr. Pat, if it's okay, I think you're one of them, who are hardwired to rise above the chaos. In other words, they see it as a time, oh, let me go put on my uniform, time to go to battle, or time to create, or trying to, you know, it's time to make some changes. So begin again. You know, and we began again, and we were proactive. We weren't rationalizing, how are we going to survive? Of course we did. We all have, you know, just like you're talking about with, you know, money from the government. You know, I mean, I wasn't quick draw McGraw on that, but one of my colleagues is like, get in there. And I'm like, okay. She's like, this thing's going to last a while. I'm like, okay. You know, because I wasn't going down that path that, you know, I would need that assistance. But Lord, it's about action.
Yeah, it is.
Instead of overanalyzing.
Yeah. And you know, here's what happened with this. And I want to talk about this as it relates to your healing journey and becoming a patient advocate, because there's something that happens to us. And I'm talking to everybody listening, because sometimes if you're listening to somebody on a talk show or a podcast, you think, well, that's not me. That's those 1% of the people that are out there. And what I want to say to everybody listening, we all have an inside of us an ability to really do what you're talking about in the book. We have it. We may need a little help. We may need a little strategy. We may need a checklist. We may need an exercise to do something. We may need it. But there's something inside of us, for the most part, that doesn't let us roll over. Now, somebody like me who has had my lifetime, my childhood, somebody like you, both of us have had crippling diseases in the middle of what? Are you kidding? I just started my radio show in 2004, and you're telling me I got a mystery disease that nobody knows what it is? And what are you telling me? My ankle is the size of a grapefruit, and it's not because I've fallen? So do I stop doing this? No. But I want to help people more than I've ever been able to, because I see both the gratitude for what we're getting to survive, and I see so many people not knowing what to do. How can we, and how will you, and how does this book, because it does, how can we help people understand that they can really, really rise up? Now, not everybody will take the step to do that today. But you wouldn't write a book like this if you didn't believe that people had that capability, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I mentioned that some people are hardwired for chaos, and I, you know, put you and me in that category. But then there's the rest of the world, you know, and the rest of the world has other priorities, and they're just not used to crisis. There's people that have had like easy lives their whole lives, and these people are in their 30s, 40s, 50s until COVID hit. And if anything, they had a lot of lessons in 2020, because again, if you've had that easier privileged life, good on you. But we went through not a defining moment individually, but globally. I mean, in the beginning, I thought it was just, we're in trouble here. Then, oh no, China's in trouble. No, oh, wait a minute, Italy's in trouble. What? Wait a minute, the UK. I mean, it was like global defining moment. So to your passion, Dr. Pat, to help more people than ever, some careers have been preparing for decades for what's about to happen right now. And wouldn't that be a pity if those people retired, when all these people who have less background and experience need our expertise more than ever? Mm-hmm. And I remember I have a background in sales, and I was in the food and business. And one guy who had 13 restaurants in San Diego, this guy was success on wheels. He didn't have feet, he had wheels. And even at his first restaurant, I knew this guy is going to be so enormously successful. So when I started my speaking and training company and Creative Life Solutions, he was the first one I went to. I'm like, you're a successful person. Of course you're going to do team building. Of course you're going to do leadership management. And you know what he said? Oh, stress management? Dealing with difficult people? I don't think, no, stress management isn't important to us right now. I'm like, oh, okay. He reads every one of my e-zines in the last year. Twice, 3 times. You know how we can track everything now digitally. Yep. So we know who's reading, But anyway, see how it shifted?
Yeah.
Because it used to be all about marketing and building and, what were the tricks to get your customer to come back?
Nope.
And now all of a sudden it's about communication, clarity, resourcefulness, compassion.
And heart-centered conversations. And our team here, our sales and marketing team, when we look for people, we don't go through the process that major companies go through. You have to have a heart-centered conversation with us. You have to be able to tell us why our hosts are the most amazing people on the planet. We're not going to ask you how many things you sold, how many things you closed, maybe they're important to some people, but that's not what we're about. But I want to ask you this question when we come back. I want to talk with you about something you just said, and I think it relates to how these things put us on, shall I call it, a very expansive spiritual journey. I want to talk to you about that. But before we go, how do we sign up for the e-zine? How do we get the book? How do we find out about you? I know Creative Life Solutions, right? .com. Is that your website? CreativeLifeSolutions.com. Tell us about what people will find there, please.
Sure. They'll find all the books that I've written, coaching programs. I have a Rise Above the Chaos series online that is really helping people during this COVID experience redefine their lives so that when it's over, they're ready for their new beginning. CreativeLifeSolutions.com. Sign up in the contact form if you have interest in any of the coaching or online Rise Above the Chaos series.
So how does a healing journey, for those of you, we're going to take a short break, we'll be right back. How does a healing journey introduce a kid like me from the Bronx to craniosacral stuff, tapping, imagotherapy, ozone therapy, all sorts of natural herbal stuff, and you find yourself getting well? How do you build the resilience to ask the important questions in the face of authorities, whether they're medical or otherwise? How do we do it? How can we learn from this? And what does it mean to do all this and rise up positively beyond the fog of chaos? I'm not going to answer those. Carolyn Gross is going to answer, my very special guest. Let's take a short break. Benny, Jacob, we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By, and you can hear us on a whole bunch of places, but certainly on Transformation Talk Radio. That's our fabulous network, as well as my flagship station. Been on this with Benny, 17 years, Alternative Talk AM 1150. Those of you who are watching this stream live to multiple places now, you get to see our faces, which is kind of cool. That's part of our Epic Living TV channel. For those of you out there, I really want to make sure that you have a way to get a hold of this book, but also to really connect with Carolyn and, creativelifesolutions.com. How do people get the book? Let's make sure folks know how to get the book.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Rise Above the Chaos, and they can get it on my website, creativelifesolutions.com, Target, Amazon, all the rest. And also there's a coaching series, riseabovethechaos.net. And if you become part of that mastermind group, you get the book and the CD set. So all kinds of ways to connect with me and redefine your life.
I love a lot of things about your book. I really love that when you introduce us to what you call alternative healing solutions, I have a different name for them, alternative healing solutions. And the reason we call them alternative is because we're living in a dual, or how should I say, triple system of getting care in the United States. And I love that you started this chapter in a way I didn't expect. You started the chapter talking about significant research. I love that. I'm a little researcher myself. Is being done in the field of alternative healing. And then you go on to talk about that. So I know from just reading the first paragraph in the book, you have done your research. You have been down the path. If you're like me, you got every test under the sun until they finally said, I'm going to put you in a bucket. We're not sure, but, and I guarantee them I did not have HIV. I didn't have AIDS. I guarantee them. They didn't believe me. But I went through that. You started this out by educating us about this. Tell me about the significance and importance in your life and your message for alternative healing.
Well, there was a time when I made a lot of lifestyle changes at once. And one of the things I stopped doing, it's now legal, but anyway, I stopped alcohol, I stopped pot, I stopped overeating or eating a lot of sugar and all that other stuff. And I did it all in 1 year. And it was pretty dramatic. And what happened was this woman who was trying to help me, get my mind right about my life and realize that I could turn out different than my family, even though my family had some of those things I was talking about overabundantly. They were all successful. But for me, something wasn't right, and I always knew I was supposed to be my own person. What was interesting is she goes, well, if things get really tough for you, you can get on antidepressants. I go, I'm not doing all this proactive stuff. I'm like 30. I'm not doing all this proactive stuff so I can have a pill. Now, this does not mean I'm faulting people that are on antidepressants, because if you have the chemical imbalance that you need that support, please get your support. Absolutely. But there was something inside of me, I call it innate wisdom. And the innate wisdom said I didn't make all these lifestyle changes to get on some type of medication. And just to show you that I really had that in me, like strongly, I had an innate wisdom that when my doctors told me in my 20s, oh, you'll be on asthma medication the rest of your life, I said, no, I won't. No, I won't. I'm going to figure out how to do stress and not wheeze or, be able to breathe. And so really what an interesting test with COVID, right? Because it hits the lungs. They're like, asthmatics are more susceptible. But remember, my consciousness, my belief system, and the direction that I was taking with Chaos, the great teacher, was, no, I'm going to overcome asthma. I'm going to overcome, whatever it was that I needed those medications or, sugar highs from. I'm going to overcome those habits and become a greater person as a result of it. And so alternative healing solutions is born because what did I find? I found out from a massage table, I could get relief from all kinds of stress and all kinds of overwhelm. And then you saw that I became a massage therapist. And then I'm like, oh God, I can't just be a massage therapist. I've got to specialize. I went to a singular convention that was put on by Massage Magazine. They had all the experts there for Heller work, for craniosacral therapy, shiatsu, Russian massage. I mean, they were all there. And I won the introductory class to craniosacral work, and then did that as a private practice for almost 15 years. So, yeah.
Well, and the reason I'm talking about this is because sometimes some of the most horrific things that happen to us point us into a place of possibilities we probably may have never gone, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, when I started this show, I was not the person I am today. I don't know that I would have turned into the person I am today. But that mystery disease changed the entire direction. And by the way, you'll have to Google this. The original show was called Crust Busting Your Way to an Awesome Life. It was the most hilarious thing. It was a great show. And the whole Dr. Pat show name came actually from the listeners.
Wow.
But I could not do anything else but continue to buy airtime. I was not physically well enough to go work like a job. So this is how the universe says, okay, girlfriend, you thought you're just like, you're thinking you're starting to look for other jobs. You're going to work for the corporation. No, you're not. Part of the journey and part of the spiritual journey I want to ask you about is how do we not only go through the spiritual journey of healing, but tune in to that guidance system that may some days not make any dang sense, Carolyn. May not be like, that does not make sense to me. Help us with that, because you have an entire section of the book that does that beautifully.
Well, so many of the people that I've had the privilege to work with over the years as coaching clients have been either near burnout from overwork. I love ambitious. I call them racehorses trained to race. Those are my clients. And so, but a racehorse needs a lot of extra care, right? So, you know, that's where I plug in my services. But the thing that's so important is I will say to them, because they're so ambitious, a lot of them have these very talented brains that work on 3 to 5 to 8 levels at a time. You know, they're processing information. I have another coaching friend who calls it octobrain. I go, is there any research on octobrain? She goes, no, I came up with it. I go, I know what octobrain is. Now, any overachiever probably does. If you do some research right now, tell me if there is anything. Thank you. So what happens is all that talent is wonderful. But if you can't slow down at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, I know that it's best to find a routine for centering, meditation. Is it a walk with your dog? Is it actually sitting and doing deep breathing, stilling your mind, setting your intention, praying for others? Once people, I had teachers like I know you have had. And once people say they want to be their best self and serve others, you're going to need divine guidance. Because human cannot help human unless human has power boosters. I don't care what they are. They can be your teachers that you've had, you know what I mean? A great Harvard. What if Einstein was your teacher? Wouldn't you think that was a pretty good power booster? You know what I mean? So, you know, it's one thing you have to be careful too, because I haven't always led with spirituality in my work, but today it would be a pity. People already pick it up that I'm a spiritual person. So it'd be a pity not to say, oh my God, I've meditated for 35 years.
Yeah. And you know, you're right. Hey, look, when I went back to school, I mean, why did I go back to school? Well, okay, chaos, lost my job after 24 and a half years. And all I could think about as my boss is yanking my badge off my neck was I wonder if Columbia still has my application. I mean, she's screaming at me. The veins are popping out of her thing there. And that's all I could think about. So that's a little guidance. That's a little beep, right? Because out of the blue, I'm thinking about that. And I think we're in this place now where we're starting to see the results of it, Carolyn. And what I mean by that is look at what we've created during an horrific situation. Look at the innovation. My God,
Yes.
why did the Zoom people create Zoom when they did? And how was it that they were able to adapt and change on the dime? That we are now Zoom. We say Zoom like we drink, like we're talking about water.
Yep.
And I thought about this and I thought, look at the divine plan. I want to ask you this question. A lot of people think I've missed the window, right? Something happens, right? I missed the window.
Yeah.
You're like, how old are you? You missed the window. I use missed the window, but you get what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
you missed your chance, your shot.
Yeah, missed my shot.
You missed your shot. Yeah.
I'm still Washington State table tennis champion. So I just want to say that in my age group. But that idea of missing your shot, that can create a level of toxicity. Can you talk about how to help the folks listening that may be thinking, I'm missing my shot. My day is passing me by. Help us with this today.
Well, especially if you're going to be useful in the world, right now, you need a lot of preparation because people can figure it out in the sound of a voice. They can see it on the screen if you actually have the goods. So if you've had to prepare longer than maybe some of your other colleagues or friends to have a successful business, write your book, get your podcast, get your radio show, TV, let's not be limiting, build your empire, the next Oprah, for the next Oprah out there, the longer you've prepared, the more resilient you're going to be, number one. And number two is never, never, never give up. That's Sir Winston Churchill, ladies and gentlemen, born November 30th, the same day as me. I never think we have that much more in common, but never, never, never give up is me. Because one of the things, Dr. Pat, and I can really relate to this, is I started in the speaking field and then I ended up in the medical research and clinical work. There was a part of me that felt like I had failed in my mission as a speaker. But when I overcame that chaos of, no, this is a life assignment. Oh, look, I'm going to learn about the immune system. You think people are interested in chaos and how to build a strong and healthy immune system in today's world? I'm prepared. You're prepared. And whoever's listening, you're prepared too. Trust yourself. You know more than you think you do.
And I really want to talk about, I want to piggyback on that for a minute, because one of the things we have not talked about, and I want to mention it, is that when we're going through this time that you just beautifully, beautifully talked about, there is an emotional and psychological side to this. This pandemic, this experience is not only about the physical part of this and people losing their lives. There's an emotional side of this. And there's such a deep emotional side of caring for people that have gone through the experience. Maybe you lost a parent, a friend of mine did, but the fact that you have gone through that experience, that has caused a level of trauma in people's lives that we're not talking about. We're not talking about the impact of that. And so, yes, we have the many, many people that are suffering from the disease. And then we have 5 to 10 times more of those people that cared for them or that are family members of them. And we're just not talking about helping those folks, Carolyn, and we really do need to.
Well, that's why shows like yours and anybody that's trying to help the collective with mindset, with trust, with hope. We got to have hope. We got to have hope
Gotta
on
have
this
hope.
one. We got to have hope. You know, one of the things, so what we have to do is we have to be reminders for each other, and one person help the next. You know, I even have this idea that when I go to, you know, when I go out, which means I'm going to an essential place, Whole Foods, you know, when I go out, the post office or whatever, if I see somebody that's having a rough day, you know, I pick this kind of thing up because of the work I do, but I feel like it's my job, one heart to lift another. So what do you know right now that you can help somebody struggling? Or can you help a total stranger at the post office or at the grocery store? And, you know, there's that whole pay it forward thing too.
Yeah.
When I just recently relocated to the Coachella Valley, the first time I went to Starbucks, and I'm debating, do I want to pay for that expensive oatmeal that I don't like, but I'm moving. I'm just, you know, kerfluffled. I've got to do, you know, I've got to just get anything I can on the go, like a lot of my clients that I coach. And what happens is somebody pays it forward. Somebody paid for my order, and they paid for the expensive oatmeal that I didn't want to pay for. And it lifted my heart. It brightened my day. And that's what we're looking for now, is we have to, but we have to have eyes to look for it, rather than all the bad news bear that we've been inundated with. Please know your limits. People have to know their limits.
You know, Carolyn, I want to talk to you about this. For those of you just tuning in, Carolyn Gross joining me here today. The book is called Rise Above the Chaos, How to Keep Positive in an Unsettled World. If you're watching this on social media, you're seeing images of the book and you're watching us talk about this. We've touched upon so many things in the book. I want to get to this last point because I mentioned it earlier. Without a spiritual practice in my life, or without an understanding, the God of my understanding, whatever you want to call it, without that, I'm pretty sure I would not be able to restore, relax, and renew. I'm pretty sure I would not, because I know what that's like in my life, to think that I'm it. How do we capture the energy that spirituality and spiritual practices enable us to tap into, even at the worst of times?
Well, nature has been our friend this last season of these 10 months. It's funny because nature was starting to make a comeback. There was forest bathing. They, you know, so now a walk in nature had a new name. It was forest bathing or a walk in the woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and I love that the generations that are younger than ours are finding ways to sell nature breaks, hiking, you know, being outdoors, fresh air,
Yeah.
negative ions from the ocean or from bodies of water after the rain. All these things are restorative. You know, you and I have faith. We have deep faith, and we call God by God's name, but we have to be careful because there's a lot of religions. I even have a favorite necklace that has a Buddha. I put the Buddha around my neck. I feel calmer. I don't know why, you know, but I'm not Buddhist today, you know.
Oh, I know. I've got one on here that was given to me by Vera Lopez. It is a Peruvian chicana made out of ancient Peruvian wood, based on the symbols of the Peruvian, let's just call them the Peruvian practices of nature. And Linda said to me, "Are you going to wear something different today?" And I was like, no. I don't have a great explanation, but here we are talking about it, right?
And then, you know, you're asking me, how can you have more contact? How can you develop this? So because of the wonderful people I know that are thought leaders and influencers in the world, I got an invitation for a divine feminine healing on Saturday that was orchestrated from Peru. So when you go and say Peruvian, I'm like, well, you wore that so I could tell somebody. And when I did that, 1 hour, maybe it ran late, but over an hour, and all the people that had gathered were people like you and me, Pat. We were people that are supposed to be lifting women's self-worth, women's consciousness, all humans consciousness and self-worth, but a lot of times women need a little more because we can be so brilliant at our skills and yet undervalue ourselves in the way we express, whereas men don't have that at all. If a man has a skill, honey, I'm the best leader, I'm the best, marketer, I'm the best salesman. I mean, they're just like, man, you are really must be good because all you're telling me is the best. But a woman could be the best. And, even part of my earlier training was this humility thing. I got spirituality, trying to be humility, practice humbleness, kind of mixed up with marketing. And they're like, if you got it, then there's Usher. If you got it, you got to give them the goods. And I'm like, oh, that's right. So
yes,
I still participate. I'm like you said, you underlined in my book. You know what that means? You're a continuous learner, grower, researcher, student, and that makes you a teacher.
yeah, I love to learn. Carolyn, I hope you will come back. I want to thank you, first of all, for reminding us of how powerful we really are, and for putting a book in our hands that enables us to not just, understand this, but to do something about it. Again, tell folks how they can find out about you. And I would love to know your personal message for us. What do you want to leave us with?
Absolutely. Just remember that no matter what experience that you've gone through during this global defining moment, there's a directional moment underneath it, a little bell that's been ringing that wants you to explore a passion, wants you to get into that field of service. Use the global defining moment as a directional moment for your life, and you can redefine your life.
Carolyn, website again, please.
Certainly. So to get involved in some of my online courses, check out riseabovethechaos.net. And the big mother website is creativelifesolutions.com, and send us your email, any questions in the contact form.
I love it. Carolyn, thank you so much for everything. And I know we'll be talking again.
That's great. I look forward to it, Dr. Pat.
Hey, everybody, rise. That's what today's theme is. Rise above the chaos. And as we say, positivity rules. Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back.